I don't know. Okay, so we can move forward. And Sonny, you can kind of keep an eye on that and see if we can figure it out. There's people who might be reaching out to us to get in. So Jeff, thanks for being with us. Danny Grimes on the Real Estate Mastery. We're going to be having a great time today. It's Tuesday already, the 27th. April's almost gone. Not only is the first quarter gone in 2021, we're 1/3 through quarter number 2. How's it going, Jeff? How's it going in your world?
It is. It's going really well. So
you got a haircut?
Yeah, I did a charity event, raise some funds for Veterans Matter for homeless veteran issues. So I hit the goal and shaved my head yesterday live on Facebook.
Did you really? I would do that too, but except at my level of hair, I'm afraid it won't come back in. So I'm hanging on to everything I've got right now.
I think you should just go down the middle and do the Kevin O'Leary.
Oh, down the middle. Okay.
Like Shark Tank. Just keep a little on each side, you know?
Yeah, there you go. Well, you guys, hey, look, a couple things I want to say. It's 27th of April, and reminding you guys, if you look at the TV screen behind me, you go to Denny Grimes Mastery of Real Estate on Facebook page. We've got a year's worth of content that you can use, all the videos. And I know some are kind of big, and I have my TV spots there. I trust that'll be a resource totally free. I trust you'll use it for your team. And one thing I'm going to let you know about that's going on today, I know it's short notice, and it starts at 4 o'clock. You won't be able to read this. I'll read it for you. One of the bold coaches in California is putting on a $1 billion panel. Billion, that was with a B, you guys. And if you go to, and maybe, Sonny, if you can do this for me, it may be hard for you to see, put it in the chat, or maybe Jeff, you can, bigrealestatebusiness.com. It's free, I believe. You go to the bigrealestatebusiness.com. And you're going to have, I think it goes from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock Eastern time. So that'd be 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock Pacific time. And they got some heavy hitters here. I mean, you got Chris Swartz, you got Jason Abrams, who's a big man on campus for Keller Williams International. And you've got people there that are doing $150 million. And I think I'm the small potato in the group. So we're going to lead off at 4 o'clock today Eastern time. So if you have nothing else going on, which I'm sure you have a lot going on, however you or your team might enjoy, I'm sure you would enjoy the knowledge from that panel, which will be awesome. So again, last time, bigrealestatebusiness.com. Thank you so much for putting in the chat, and I trust that you'll put that on the calendar, spread the word. Now, in my class, I always want to have some thoughts of the day. And so what happened was, in this billionaire panel, they sent out a list of questions and ideas and so forth and so on. It'll be a free form event. However, they did have a common thread to some of the calls we had leading up to it. And of course, one of them has to do with how's the market. Kristen Cole, my wife, and she's got a pretty big network out there, and she has a lot of expansion teams, and she's been gathering data across the country, actually in Canada as well, answering this question: how's your market? And she's seeing some signs of shifts. Right now in Southwest Florida, we are having, and Sonny, you can confirm this based on your history with us, probably our best month ever. I mean, we have been going gangbuster on our market for about 8 or 9 months. This month is crazy. I think, we might average 20 sales a month, 25 sales a month, sometimes 30. I think we're double that this month. And so our market is on fire. However, what is usually the case, you guys, again, this is my thought of the day: how your market has to do with what's your mindset, because everything has to do with mindset. You guys will hear that over and over again. What's interesting, going to school, I don't think they ever taught us that. And being a bold coach for the last 4 years, being involved with Keller Williams a little bit longer than that, and all the writings from Gary and the training, mindset is everything. And because right now, of course, if you've heard me say before, we're in the greatest market of all time. So my co-host, which is Jeff Pennington, he's in the Washington, D.C. area. If you need a good agent up that way, Jeff can put his contact information in. So Jeff, have you seen any changes? Is your market still moving like crazy? And is it still an awesome market for you?
Yeah, so definitely still a crazy market. What's interesting, though, is we're seeing a little recently, a little less activity on the condos. And even this weekend, I went out and showed townhouses, and a month and a half ago, it was 15-minute showings with agents waiting before and after. I didn't run into, I showed 6 houses, did not run into a single agent. And I was able to schedule them the day before with half hour to 45 minutes per showing without in the order I wanted to show them in. So to me, that is a huge shift from where we were 2 months ago. But then I talked to agents that are selling in the $800 to $900 million price point on single family, and it is still like gangbusters. I mean, so it's just interesting that I was able to go out and show houses and not have, not have to jump through hoops to get them scheduled, and didn't run into any other agents. And on the condos, we held an open house the week before, and I saw some of those condos still sitting on the market a week late. So that 2 days, 24 hours still happening, but on the right houses, not on all the houses.
Anybody else? Let's see. I see some familiar faces. Rick, anybody else want to comment just real quick? Give us a quick 30-second synopsis of any change you're sensing in your market and where you are.
No changes. It's the wild, wild west.
All right. Still good then, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I put an offer in for one of my buyers last week, and come to find out there were 24 offers on that property. So.
And did you get it?
No. We were close. I was told we were close, but my buyer stepped up as big as they could. I pushed them to the limit. So, it was just one of those things. 24 offers. It's just that was the most offers I'd had on a house I presented an offer on. Most of them has been 12 to 15, but that was the most.
Right.
So far.
Well, thank you, Rick. Anybody else have a comment before we move forward? I'll give you my crystal ball look. The market is going to not be as good as the media says it's going to be. Then it's not going to be as bad as the media says it's going to be. I did my TV spot on this past Friday, and I want you to be prepared for this. I want you to get ahead of what the media is going to report, because the media and what they report can affect attitudes, right? So right now we are marking right this month kind of the 1-year anniversary since COVID. Basically, we saw some effect of COVID on the real estate market a year ago. It came out maybe late February, March. And of course, if it affected the March pendings, it would have affected the April closings. And April, May, and June, we saw negative sales relative to year over year. In fact, this month, last year, our sales were down 40%. So what that means is, because the market's certainly on fire, the media is going to report unbelievable market growth. Because when you compare a negative year to a super positive year, that delta is going to be almost unbelievable. So I want you right now to go ahead and plant your feet on the earth, because some people are going to go ding dong, the witch is dead, we're here forever. That's not going to be the truth. So what's going to be the headlines is the market is going to appear better than it really is. Reason I want you to know that, sellers, maybe some agents will be emboldened a little bit more than they are right now and become unrealistic in their actions. So then what happens? Okay, so we're going to get through that relatively fast, because there was only a small speed bump or hiccup in the market a year ago from COVID. Again, April, May, I think May was our worst month. June was a push. And I tracked the year over year sales. Then our market started picking up, and we had 20, 30, 40% year over year growth from there on to the balance of the year. Now, what that means, going through the second half of this year, because last year, 2020, the second half of the year was gangbusters. Our sales are still very strong. However, we are lacking one thing, and that is inventory. And because our inventory is low, our sales may not match when you look at year over year. June sales this year, June sales last year, July over July. That's how they measure things. It's going to appear our market is slowing, because the percentage of growth will either be slowing, or we might even see a decline in sales. Oh my gosh, that is the whistle. that basically buyers have been waiting for. That's going to be mark the turn of the market. I'm just saying, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to be the case. You're just comparing this year's sales, which are awesome, to last year's sales, which were awesome, yet we don't have the same number of inventory. So at best, the growth rate will be smaller or lower, or we might even see some negative. Therefore, the buyers are going to think, okay, here comes the buy one, get one free. Let's make lowball offers, et cetera, et cetera. So just make a mental note of that, because I don't think, and this is just my guess, and a lot of people agree with me, some people don't, you have your own opinion. I don't think there's going to be anything significant happen that is in the foreseeable future. Forget about the sucker punches that can happen. I don't think our demand is going to shift. I don't think there's anything on the foreseeable political horizon that's going to cause our market to go south for the balance of this year. So I'm just going to stop a second. Jeff, I don't know what you heard. Maybe you can say it a little bit differently. However, when we basically know what's going on with the news and we can put the proper perspective on it, I just think we can serve our clients better. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Denny. So, and I have a thought and then a question. We were looking at the numbers up here in the Washington, D.C. area, Fairfax County specifically. And what we saw was we were in a seller's market well before the pandemic. The pandemic, just portions of it made it super crazy because of ultra low inventory, but we sold virtually the same. And I say virtually because it's not exact, but virtually the same amount of houses with half the normal inventory. And, you know, my question to you is, and kind of the thoughts are that we will see a little shift, but I feel like we'll go back to a normal growth market in the DC area. So what's that conversation with sellers when it's sellers and buyers? So for buyers, it's kind of like, well, you know, we've talked about why you should buy now because it'll continue to go up. And I think it will, just not maybe at the same clip. But on the seller side, there might be a little period where we see a shift where some extra inventory comes on, and then maybe, you know, houses sit a little longer. But I feel like we'll still be in a, you know, pretty ultra sellers market for a long time. So when someone's sitting on the fence, it almost seems the opposite intuitive that maybe if you wait a little while, you can still get a great price for your house, but you might have a little more choice of what you're going to move into. And I feel like that's a legitimate, real conversation when you're looking long-term versus I need a deal today. Okay, so I think that's legit. And so I can see how that could happen. So why don't we do a quick role play on that? If you want to be, you want to take the persona of that seller. Okay. And anybody out there, we got some experienced agents here. Anybody out there, Rick, or anybody else want to take on the role of the agent in that particular case? Denny for the win. All right. All right. Cat's got your tongue. All right. So we're having a conversation at the table. So we'll pick up and say, okay, you know, we've chatted about this. We've looked at what's sold in your neighborhood. Are you ready to get your home on the market and take advantage of this white hot market, Jeff? You know, Denny, I mean, all indications are from things I've read and just kind of how I follow the market a little bit, you know, and even you know, I feel like we're always going to have a housing shortage in this area, but there's just so much competition in that price point that I want to move into. Would it make sense to just maybe wait a little while till it cools off just a little bit so that I can, you know, sell my house for a great price and be able to kind of get my home of choice without jumping through hoops? So the model then would be what? Acknowledge and isolate. So I understand you're thinking about not selling now in this market, uber hot market, because it's hard to buy in, and you think by waiting it might be easier to buy in. Yeah, I think it might be easier to buy in, but I also think that you know, we'll still be able to get full value for our house. It may not just be as crazy as it is right now. Okay. Other than that, is there anything else? Here's the isolation part, you guys. Just follow the model. Just like running the bases. I know when you're brand new in real estate, just like you're brand new in T-ball, you've all seen the kids run to third base first and run backwards. So it's just run the bases in the order. Other than that, is there any other reason why you wouldn't want to take advantage of the market right now as
while sellers are king?
No, other than that, no.
Okay. So let me ask you then. So if you want to wait until it's a little bit more advantageous for you to buy, that means the market would be would that mean the market is going up or down or maybe flat?
I would think, just based on what I've seen the last few years in this area, it'd still be going up, but not at the same crazy pace it is right now.
So then, all right. So then you would be able to, you're still going to pay, top dollar for the home, but just might not be as much top dollar, right? It might be a little bit lower if the velocity of the upward pressure slows, right?
Yeah, my hope would be that, you might be able to find something you like without having to compete against 30 people for it.
Okay. Then if that is the case, then, well, let me ask you, what's happening to the velocity on your home relative to the market? I mean, would it be make sense that if the market is cooling or the upward pressure is actually, there's downward pressure on the upward pressure, the same may be true for your home?
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
So if you sell your home for less and you don't have 30 offers, you may have one or two. It may take you longer. However, buying a home, you might be able to, not have to compete against 50 people. So you sell your home for less and buy a home for less. Is that a win situation for you?
It sounds like it's about the same. I feel like the difference might be I might have a better home of choice. I might have more options.
So would that then also mean that somebody who would be looking at your home would have more options to choose from? And when they go to buy a home, they'll be looking at yours. Or maybe right now in the marketplace, there may not be any others. And now there's going to be 3 or 4 other choices. Do you think that could happen?
Yeah, I could see that.
And would that work in your favor as a seller?
As a seller, no, not really.
So help me understand then where you see the benefit to you of selling your house for less just so you can buy a house for less.
All right. Can I off script for a minute?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know where else to go with that.
I think that's as good as you can handle that. So my question, and I think my question is coming maybe because I'm a little too knowledgeable as an agent, but we saw 4, 5, 6% growth on a normal year after year basis. Next year average growth is, if it's 4%, it's still growing. That's the question I'm trying to wrap my head around is, growth is growth. If the prices continue to go up next year, but it's not at 10%, it's at 4%, it means it's not quite as hot a market. There's more inventory available. It's still competitive. Most likely it's still a seller's market. That's the conversation I'm trying to wrap my head around.
Well, all right. So any comments from anybody else on a question you may have asked, or any comments on what I asked before I kind of lay another card on the table for Jeff?
Well, we can't predict we're not fortune tellers. We can't predict the market. He says, okay, we historically got 4% growth. Well, what did the pandemic teach us? That would be, we thought, these things can happen at any time. One thing can change and upset that whole thought process. And I think about when Jeff was talking about, and you gave the illustration of selling your, help me understand, selling your home for less now to buy a house for less later. What about the demand? I mean, the demand is high right now. There might not be a demand for Jeff's house in 6 months. Or that style house. So, but the meat thermometer is the other thing I thought of. Is the market working in your favor or for you or against you? And those are just my thoughts and comments.
Well, hey, just take that. You're exactly on the path where I was thinking of, because Jeff is making the assumption that what the future is going to be, right? And
Right.
I know what the trend has been. And the trend has been for my Buccaneers to really have a sucky team and lose. However, guess what just happened?
Right.
So can you count on the future? And so the risk for a seller like, and I'll let you go down that road with a quick role play there, Rick. The risk for the seller or a buyer is that the future may be different than what we predict. And I think Rick's statement was, what did we learn from the pandemic? That would be an excellent question to ask. And probably the most succinct answer is you can't depend on tomorrow. So why don't you use the meat thermometer, Rick, and do a couple minute role play with them and walk Jeff down that path.
All right, gotta get my cap on here. So Jeff, let me ask you this: do you think the current market is working in your favor, or is it working against you?
As a seller, I definitely think it's in my favor right now.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, and I would agree with that. It's definitely working in your favor. So one of the things that we don't know about, and the pandemic, what's one thing you think I've learned about the pandemic?
Things change.
Things change. And so while historically you've seen your house, the price of your house increase over a period of time, we can't predict what's going to happen in the market at any given time. We can't with accuracy. We can look at trends and we can make guesses, but we can't predict exactly what's going to happen. And so with that being said, the market's working in your favor, and you do have options in this market, Jeff. One of the options that I offer my clients is lease back until you find the house. So that's an option. Some of my clients are looking to make that interim move, and so there are options for you to consider to take advantage of cashing out the equity in this house so that you can buy your next house, move up in house. In addition to that, you've got interest rates working in your favor, even on that next house, even though you might be paying more for that next house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So awesome job. When you think of the formula in real estate, this is worth writing down, you guys. What is it? Okay, I'll just ask the question, I'll answer, because there's more than one answer. I don't want to make you guess. There is a saying out there that the shrewd real estate investor loves to sell high, buy low. You never hear an investor say, I'd love to buy low and sell high. No, I guess that's the same thing. I would love to sell low and buy high. And the only way a seller in this market can sell high and buy low is they have to sell high. And so going back to the conversation that we were just having, do we know that the seller can do that now? Yes. In a month or 6 months, can they sell for more? Maybe, maybe not. However, if the market shifts or even flattens, you see, it doesn't have to go down. If the market were to flatten, the seller is going to net less because there are not going to be 30 people lined up to buy it, unless, of course, the price was lower. So if the market changes and there's only, I can't imagine it going up faster, the seller is going to lose. So there is no rational reason, particularly when we're in the greatest market we ever had, for a seller to wait. Because the longer they wait, it goes back to what we've talked about before. If you were guaranteed to win every time you pulled the slot or the hammer on, what do you call that? The slot machine. If you're guaranteed to win, would you do it? However, and I used this for the first time the other day, like Cinderella, there's going to be a time when the clock strikes midnight where you're going to, you're not going to be Cinderella anymore and the market shifts. And once that happens, you can't sell high. So awesome job, Brick. Thanks for that. Great input there, Jeff. So really quick, from a mindset standpoint, a couple of things I want to cover is this. We've talked about this before, talk about mindset, and they give you a couple of new slides. I've never showed these before, is that there's still a lot of people out there with COVID on the mind.
You're frozen, Denny.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he frozen on your side? Okay.
Okay, I got it. Hang on. Okay.
More bandwidth.
I've got direct hardwire. So carry on, Jeff, just for a moment. I'll just reset this.
All right. So, on that same topic, flipping that to buyers, it's pretty much the same conversation, right? Right now we have interest rates are low. The market continues to go up. If you don't buy now, I've got buyers, they kind of want to be on the fence rate. Like, well, I think I might just wait and see if it cools off a little bit. And there is a fine line in that conversation of, it might slow down a little and you might have a little more options versus prices go up. And if interest rates jump with that, your buying power is going down substantially.
I agree with that line of reasoning is that right now they have, yes, you might feel like you're paying a lot for the house, but your buying dollar is maximized because of what the interest rates are.
Yeah, I agree. I had someone last week, she said, well, maybe I'll just wait and save more money, because she can't get the house and her price point that she really likes, her ideal home. And I was like, well, just keep in mind that if the prices continue to go up, that extra money you saved is going to be completely offset by, and if interest rates go up on top of that, you're actually going to come out with less buying power, even with the savings, the extra savings.
Hey, Denny, can I jump in?
Yeah. Hey, I'm back. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me?
Yep, we see you.
All right, Don, what's up?
Well, and coming from whether it's a seller or a buyer want to win. So if we're talking to buyers, gosh, why do we want to do this now? We're never going to win. We're never going to get so what we're coaching our buyers through is like, Jeff, here's what we're doing to help our buyers win in this situation. If you think about it, you're right. You're 100% right. You are paying more than you've ever paid, than anybody's ever paid in the history for a home here in Scottsdale. No question. You're 100% right. You're paying more. However, the victory is, number one, you're getting the house and everybody else isn't. Number two, you're getting it at today's interest rates versus next year's interest rates, which have to be higher. They have to be. And your interest over 30 years is going to be more expensive. And then thirdly, as you get it today at 620,000, as the market looks like it's going to continue to gradually go up, you're building equity as homes around you sell for more. So for those three, you're winning in all three environments. The only way you're losing is if you wait till next year. Maybe the market flattens a little bit, maybe it doesn't. So let's say you pay the same price next year, but interest rates are higher. You lose because it's going to cost you more. Plus prices may go up too. So it's your choice, Denny. You want to pay the market now, or do you want to pay the market later? Which is best for you?
Well, there's the question. I was waiting for the question. That's exactly right, Don. In fact, it kind of goes in with what I'm going to show you next. So, this is mindset. A lot of folks have this on their mind. Believe me, what percent of the public have COVID on their mind? What percent of the agents do? Because that's what's going through our minds is really important versus having the greatest market of all time. You guys, it is raining rubies out there. I know that's dollar bills. It's raining money. And what's interesting is this, if this is the best market there's ever been, shouldn't we be having all the business we want, yet there's still some agents that are struggling? And if they're struggling in this market, when it gets to normal, how much more will they struggle? If they can't swim in a baby pool with a lifeguard right there, what happens when they get into the deep water that's 52 degrees? They're going to have some issues. Now, going to what Don was saying about having buyers in this market, this goes back to another mindset, you guys. We talked about using seller's market. This is a review. We've talked about this before. I don't use the term seller's market because technically that suggests that one person has the muscle over the other. There's a winner and there's a loser. And the bold law says change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. So I use the term winner's market. Sellers are winning because they're putting more equity in their pocket. and I have just as a script, we're in a winner's market. Yes, sellers are receiving extra equity as prices rise. However, when buyers enter into a contract, they begin riding the equity elevator up.
You froze, Denny.
Man, I hate that. He was rolling.
All right, we are in a winner's market. Yes, sellers are receiving extra equity as prices rise. However, when buyers enter into a contract, they begin riding the equity elevator up, just like the seller. Won't that be fun? Yeah, and Don, those were great points you made. And one thing that I added to that was if they're a renter, I was having a very similar conversation. You know, and the other thing I said is, do you expect rents will go up in the next year or two? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. They always go up. And I was like, the nice thing about locking in that really low interest rate right now is you lock in a permanent payment that will never go up, you know, and that's something we kind of forget about, you know, when you're working with someone who's renting, that in reality, every year they're trying to bump you and, you know, again, in a DC market, for example, I don't know what Scottsdale's like, but in DC, it's a very tight rental market as well, most of the time. So
that's what I was going to ask. What are their options? I mean, home ownership or renting, and then they're going to be priced out of the rental market probably too.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it's like, you know, you save some extra money, but now you're paying $500 more a month for rent. So there goes all your extra savings.
Jeff, you lock in at a permanent payment. That's pretty powerful. I wrote a lot down, but that one, when you buy now, you know, you win in this winner's market because you get to lock in at a permanent payment, being at risk instead of being at risk for a landlord that wants to pad his own pocket and drive the price up. Let's lock in at a permanent payment now for you for the next 30 years. Won't that be great?
Yeah, I mean, when you think 10 years from now, think how low your mortgage payment is when you bought your first house. Like if you didn't refinance, think about like 10 years later, if you had a decent rate, like, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, like people are paying $1,000 more a month for the same house, you know?
Or even, you know, Jeff, what we all rented at one time. Think back to that first apartment or first house you rented. How long ago was that?
Yeah, that was like 1992.
Okay, so that was back like in the Roosevelt administration, right? So 1992, that was
right after I got back
29
from Vietnam.
Yeah, that was 29 years ago. So do you remember what the rent was back in 1992?
It was somewhere around $600 for a 2-bedroom, if I remember correctly.
$600 for a 2-bedroom. So what do you think that same, now you're long removed from that, I would imagine. What do you think that same property rents for it in today's market?
In that neighborhood, probably 1,500 to 1,800.
Yeah, so doubled or tripled. Thank God you're not renting that property now, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So let's put that in today's perspective. You know, you buy a home here at full price at whatever, even if it's 4%, 10 years from now, or 29 years from now, you look back at 2021 and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I bought this house at that payment because look where things are now. Think about that.
Yeah, there's no question. And, you know, even with the recession, I think, did we lose Denny?
I think I'm back.
Oh,
Am I here?
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys are doing great. I'll step in when you're done.
I think we're good.
Awesome. So I apologize for that. And I'm on my other computer, so I don't have the backgrounds and all that stuff. So I don't know why my computer is messing up. So let's just move forward because 2 more things I want to share with you. And you're not going to be able to see it on my TV. I'm just going to share with you. The mindset winner's market. Here is the key question, guys. When you're working with a buyer right now that's hesitant, this is a key question. Write it down. This is gold. So right now the market's going up. They're a little bit scared, right? We just talked about once they secure the home, and Don was saying locking the payment, they basically have locked into the market. Now they're riding the equity elevator up. The only people that lose are the lookers. This is the question you would ask a buyer. I understand. Would you rather buy when the market's falling? That is called checkmate. Because that means when they lock in on the contract, every day they wake up, it's Groundhog Day in reverse. They turn off the alarm, and Sonny and Cher are singing, "I got you, babe." Their home is worth less. How many buyers would rather do that?
0.
Now that is to the heart, as Don Henley would say, to the heart of the matter question. And buyers will not buy, most likely, in a falling market. They'll wait a long time if the market's falling. Why? Because urgency is gone. Every time they wake up, the home is worth less. What's driving the market right now is every time they wake up, the home is worth more, and that drives the market. So write that down, because that is the key question. Their choice is to buy in this market or buy when the market's falling.
Right.
What would they rather do? Any comments on that?
So Denny, it's just, would you rather buy in a market that's going down?
Yep.
Because every day you wake up, it's worth less. Or do you want to buy now where a market's going up? So every day you wake up, got equity.
Well, is there anybody on the call that remembers 2006 at the peak of the market and what happened over the next 3 years? You know, Christy, I know that you were probably, I don't think you were active in real estate. Your mom was in Alaska. You probably know the stories. You probably went from filet mignon to macaroni and cheese, or, you know what I'm talking about. Anybody on the call that was in real estate back in 2006-ish?
Yes.
Our market went
Yes,
almost.
I was.
You were? Did you see how the sales basically slowed and inventory rose? In fact, buyers basically got a lazy boy and watched on the sidelines. In fact, they had curb service where people would be bringing them drinks and chicken wings. They were watching the market crash. It took, it took to get the buyers back into the market. It took the banks coming in with distressed properties, slashing prices to a point where it made them get off their seats. So right now, this is the best market to be in. One more thing, or two more points I want to get you across from a mindset standpoint that I think are indicative of this market. Number one, we've talked about this before, but I did a role play with another team yesterday. And the question came up, Jeff, hey, listen, I'm dealing with this one seller and they're being kind of unrealistic on price. And I'm not one to take the listing because I don't want to have a blemish on my record, meaning I didn't want a terminated listing or an expired. So I'm just telling them no. Here's my mantra, you guys: never, 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 never walk away from a listing in this market. Never. Because one of a couple things are going to happen. Number one, if they have motivation, they may capitulate. A sale for you, cha-ching. Number two,
Hey,
the market may come up to them. It may grow to their expectations. That's a sale for you. Can you say cha-ching? And what ancillary benefits can you guys get out of a listing in this marketplace? Can it be a location for an open house? Will you get some buyer calls on it, et cetera, et cetera? Then I just quickly use the example, and you don't have to be a big sports fan. I'm not like a big data guy on sports. I just heard of a guy named Babe Ruth. I mean, not the candy bar, the batter. And I remember being told that he was a home run king for the longest time. He also was a strikeout king. And when I said that to that agent, it was kind of like a V8 moment for him. And he said, "You're right. Take the listing, write that down, take the listing." And what's the script that we've been trained to say? Jeff, if you basically I have an unrealistic expectation of as a seller, so what would be the script that we taught before? This actually it's 4 words or 5 words. What would you say if I'm that seller and I have unrealistic expectations? Don't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to know if you know.
Do you think the market is working for or against you?
Okay, well, so you're going the me thermometer. Well, I think it's working in my favor.
Oh, I know what it is.
What are you
Do it.
going to do if the market tells you no?
You're right. What is it?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Who was that?
Nikki.
Well, someone said it for me, but I was going to say the exact same.
All right, so what are you going to, all right, so then, all right, so Nikki, that was you, right? So you're the seller and you have an unrealistic expectation. So what are you going to do if the market says, before I say that? So listen, If you want 650 and the comps are showing 550, so if we can get your home on the market today at 650, are you prepared to move forward, Nikki?
Yes.
All right, knuckle bump. Now, I'm going to take the listing. Now, do I have any fingerprints on that number? Did I give them any indication that I believe in what their number is? Absolutely not. Then I'm going to ask Nikki, what are you going to do if the market says no?
I don't know, Denny, what should we do if the market says no?
Well, there are only 3 outcomes. Who knows what those are? You guys are starting to see a pattern here, isn't it? What's interesting about this is this. I just had this thought. Let me just lay this out and see if it makes sense to you guys. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. There's only so many pieces. You dump them all on the table. Then what are you attempting to do? You want to find the flat edges first, and you have an idea of the roadmap. You're looking at the picture on the box. How many times are we using the same things over and over again? It's not like you have to have an infinite number of conversations. A lot of the conversations lead you to the same spot. So, well, there's only 3 outcomes. Who can tell me what the 3 outcomes are? What's outcome 1? Anybody?
No showings. Little to no showings.
Low to no showings, which means what? The fish are here. I mean, the bait is here and the fish are here. It's going to take a major repositioning. What's outcome 2, you guys?
Some showings, no offers.
No offers.
That's right. Don't say, yeah, first one's low to no showings, and outcome 2 is showings and no offers or maybe a low offer. What is the problem there?
Price too high.
Overpriced.
Yeah, you're going to have a minor repositioning. Outcome number 3, it sells. So Nikki, if you're at $650,000, which clearly you can see that's an awesome number, hasn't been done in your neighborhood yet, you win, right?
Yes.
And if we were able to find a buyer to pay that price, you're happy and I win too, right?
Yep.
So we're on the same team. So my question is, and I'm going to ask you again, what are you going to do if the market says no? Because there's 3 outcomes. What will you do next?
Well, I would say, we would have to drop the price. However, in this market, don't you think that some sellers are going to say, well, hey, with the way that the market is going, I don't want to drop the price. There's going to be someone out there that's going to pay for it.
Right. Now, at that point in time, you guys are awesome today. You're working a lot better than my internet connection is today. Let me tell you that. So let me ask you, at that point, where do we go next? This is a clear path, you guys.
Denny, the first thing I would have said would be, which she just said, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to pay the price, right? My first reaction, I don't know if it's right or wrong, would be, yeah, but what if it's you?
You know what? I didn't even realize that that's exactly what I said. And then when you started saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just pigeonholed myself.
I'm just a little concerned, Don. I think you got a picture of my wife on your door. That's freaky.
I do. And it says, you cannot cheat the grind.
Just read. Don's on my wife's expansion in the same office. Okay, so, all right. So that's awesome. I got distracted there by looking at my wife's picture. So what if, okay, so the logical place to go next would be, why are they selling in the first place, right? You got to go to motivation. So I'm going to switch to you, Don. Now you're that seller, you and Nikki are, so let me ask you, so you're selling for a reason. Why are you selling?
Well, we want to get that bigger house that we've always wanted at today's prices.
Awesome. And then you're going to go, what is that big house going to do for you?
Well, it's giving us more room. It's getting us into that neighborhood that we've always wanted to get into, and might as well do it now. Right.
And then you get into the emotion level. How's that going to make you feel when your kids go to the nice school and you're closer to your country club, blah, blah, blah. So my question is this. If homes are going up in value, and yours is too high for the market, at some point, every day that your home sits, the house you want to move into is getting more expensive, correct?
Yes.
Plus, you're robbing yourself of the ability to be in the area. So let me ask you, how long are you willing to wait how long are you willing to wait in order to get realistic to sell your home?
I wanted to say 30 days, but that might be too long. Couple of weeks?
Well, yes. Well, your sellers in Phoenix and Scottsdale are a whole lot nicer than my sellers because they might say, well, hey, I'm in no hurry. Right? Ever have a seller say that?
Yeah. I'm in no hurry, Denny. When it's right, it's right.
So, okay. So are you saying you're willing to wait a year?
Well, I don't really want to wait a year because things could change, but certainly I'd like to give it a shot over the summertime.
All right. So I get that. However, if the market says no, and there's 3 outcomes, let me ask you, if I were a doctor and you had a rash, how long are you willing to take the wrong prescription that wasn't working before you took the right prescription that made you better?
Not as long, obviously, because that's my health.
So that's the conversation you're going to go through, because what's interesting is a seller that's overpriced by so much the market will never reach him. And again, you don't know. However, there are some sellers out there that you know that's never going to happen. He is losing ground every day of the year because where he wants to go, those houses are going up in value. His house is going up in value too, yet it's kind of like the fish are biting and his pole is in the trunk. He doesn't even have a hook in the water. So that's the conversation you'd want to have. So that's, again, one of my mantras, one of my mindsets is I'm not walking away from any listing at all in this market. Any comments on that? You don't have to agree. You can't agree. You might have a war story. Any comments on that, you guys?
Well, Dan,
Yeah,
I think. Oh,
go ahead, Jeff. Okay.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is we go back to the beginning of the conversation today on the scripts, and it's kind of the same thing as well, where just like the pandemic, things can change overnight. So waiting a couple weeks is probably okay. Waiting a couple months could change everything, and I think that's a legitimate conversation you can have.
Well, how would you do that in a question-based format, Jeff?
Denny, do you remember last year about this time in March when everything changed and the world, went into shutdown?
Yeah, who could forget that?
Did you foresee that at Christmas last year? That year, did you see that during the holidays that year, around New Year's? Did you expect anything like that was going to happen?
It's kind of funny. I look back, we had family visiting. We had all these get-togethers. We went to a pageant at our church, and there were some hockey games at the local arena that I happened to see those pictures the other day. And I'm thinking, how weird. We all were meeting, and, like things like we're always like that. Then all of a sudden things were different.
Yeah. So my question to you, Denny, is it fair to say that although we don't expect anything to happen, something drastic could change that could devalue your home kind of overnight?
So would that be a stronger statement when you say we don't expect it to happen? Because did we expect what happened in the COVID?
No, we didn't.
So I would think it'd be stronger. Great question, great line of logic. If you just said, is it possible there could be some other type of disruption that was unanticipated?
It is possible.
So well, yeah, I guess it could. So I'll go back. You're the agent, and I would say it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So Denny, we know right now today that we can get the most money for your home ever. Does it make sense to price it where we can get it in front of the most amount of buyers to get that sold now versus maybe waiting until the end of the summer to see if we can get more?
Maybe. You can't. All right. So yeah. Maybe. I'm waiting for you to come back with one thing. You're almost on it. You've got your thumb almost on it. Get me into pain.
Denny, how would you feel if we kept the house on the market longer trying to get your price and the market said no and ultimately you sell it for less?
That's the pain point, you guys. Every decision a buyer and seller makes to prolong finalizing the transaction, there's the other side of the coin. There's something that could happen. So the question ultimately is, how long are you willing to be unreasonable before you get reasonable? And what happens if the market changes in the meantime? Go back to the casino. You're guaranteed to walk out of the casino a winner right now. However, you never know when the clock will strike the proverbial 12 o'clock and the Cinderella market for you will be over.
Well said.
How about that? I'm getting fairy tales in there, Cinderella. I have to work on maybe a Little Mermaid or something. I have to get another Disney character in here. So, all right. So the other thing I want to say really quick before we go ahead, one more is, and we're talking about it, here's my mindset. And I wrote an article about this in Real Trends. I think I've talked about it, maybe mentioned it last week, is here's my mindset, you guys. In every conversation with buyers and sellers, I set expectation, I don't set prices. So again, to review the mindsets, not seller's market, it's a winner's market. I never walk away from a listing in this marketplace. I set expectations, not prices. And the last one is, real quick, and we can do any role plays, any questions you have for the next 8 minutes or so. This is truly my mindset, you guys. A great listing agent is always free to a seller. So I don't have the mindset when I talk to a seller about they have to pay 6% or 3%, or maybe if somebody wants to sell it themselves, they want to save the 3%. I use the painting story. So Jeff, I understand if you're going to paint your house, could you paint your house by yourself?
I could.
Yeah. Or you could hire it done professionally. Just, again, who would probably most likely get it done the fastest and do a better job? You or the professional?
The professionals for sure.
Okay. So would you do it yourself to try to save some money? Or are you into the quality of the job?
Based on past experience, I think I would rather have someone get it done more quickly at a better quality.
Here's the thing I want you guys to realize, because you're going to hear this. If you haven't already, you're going to hear it more and more often. And it's absolutely right. And this market's so hot, I don't need you. That is 100% true. Sellers don't need us to sell their house. Anyone can give it away. Jeff does not need to hire a painter to paint his house. He can paint it. We don't have to go and hire a barber or a stylist to cut our hair. We can cut it ourselves and save some money. But why don't we do that? We don't do that because we want results, right? So Jeff, let's say you're going to hire a painter. Then all of a sudden the painter would show up and knock on your door and say, hey, listen, I'm a painter. I do this professionally. I've got a great reputation. And you know what? I always like to do something nice for somebody. So I'm willing to basically paint your house professionally for free. Would you turn down that service? No strings attached. Would you turn down that service?
Absolutely not.
No, I think it'd be crazy, right?
And I'd probably ask, what's the catch?
There is no catch. And you know what? You knew. Yeah. Good reputation of the painter. So now you're going to have your house painted professionally, and it's not only going to save you time, aggravation, it's going to be a better job. Pretty good deal, right?
That's a great deal.
How would you like to have it even better?
Sure.
How would you like to have that painter and make you the same offer instead of, tell you what, not only am I going to do it free for you, Jeff, I am going to pay you $3,000 to let me paint your house. No strings attached.
I'm not sure why you want to do that, but yes, I'll be happy to take your $3,000.
So you guys, I want you guys to put it together. How does that tie in with what we do for sellers? I think it's a perfect analogy. Again, this is one of my mindsets. I understand my value proposition as a great listing agent. And we are literally going to paint the house, figuratively speaking. We're going to sell the house. Not only are we going to do it for free because we're going to do all the work. Jeff doesn't have to, the seller doesn't have to do anything. We're going to put money in the seller's pocket. Can you see how that analogy plays? Any comments on that?
I think the where you can solidify that at the end is obviously with your own results, but also numbers of, which I think I've seen, that FSBOs sell for X% less. So having your own results that show you get more combined with what FSBOs typically get should make that exactly the scenario you talked about, where you're actually, not only are you not paying for my service, but you're actually making money for using me.
Hey, Jeff, can you be a seller?
Absolutely.
And you're a FSBO, and you're right. You're absolutely right, Jeff. You absolutely could. You don't need me. You could sell this home yourself. One thing I'd like to just explore with you, though, let's say you sell to the first buyer and they buy it at your price. That buyer now has you kind of hamstrung. May I explain?
Sure.
If they know they're the only buyer in the transaction and you're waiting on them to qualify and they're waiting on them to do the appraisal and you're waiting on them to keep their job, they've got you hamstrung because they know they're the only buyer. So they can ask for more. Just to flip that around, should you decide to list with me and we put it on the open market and I have 5 or 6 offers minimum and we accept one, we probably have a very good chance of getting buyer number 2 and buyer number 3 in a backup position. So if a buyer wants to get a little crazy on us, we can always say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're not going to make that repair, or we're not going to do that because we have buyer number 2 and buyer number 3 right behind you. So listing with me will give you leverage that a buyer knows they're not the only buyer in the game. When you sell it yourself, that buyer has you hamstrung. Do you see how that listing with us can actually put you in a better position to have leverage with the open market versus just the closed market with one buyer?
Yeah, that makes sense. And if I was going to follow up to that, stay and roll, well, you know, why couldn't I get multiple buyers to, you know, be interested in my property?
You might. Are you a licensed realtor who has the advantage of using the multiple listing system and attracting 55,000 agents into your home?
No.
Right. I am. So do you want to fish like with a big net in the ocean and bring in all this tuna? Or do you just want to fill out one line at a time?
Cane pool.
Let's use the big net.
Let's use the big net. Great. That's what KCN, that's what we do for you. Sign here. Here's your
But
pen.
I have a comment.
Yep.
Hi, this is Judy. As a seller can say, I am going to be in MLS. I used a listing service that only charged me $400, and they're going to put me into the MLS, which is going to, they've told me it's going to go into Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. So I am going to be everywhere. So basically, I can do all the things that you're going to do. I'm going to be out there in front of all those buyers without having to sign a listing agreement with you.
So let me ask you, Judy, other than that, you know, I mean, are you attempting to really to save money? Is that your number one goal?
It is. I just would rather pay like 3% or 2.5% in this market, because it seems like all the realtors are cutting their rates down for me now, which I'm really happy about. So yeah, I'm trying to save that other side.
So, so basically, are you saying that if I had a buyer that would pay you what you wanted for your home, you're willing to compensate my broker 3%?
Well, I think 2.5%, because that seems what everybody's doing.
Okay, so then you're attempting to save the listing side, which in your opinion is like 2.5%.
Right.
All right, so yes, you can put your home in MLS and they pay $400. So let me ask you, how are you going to price the home?
Well, I know what I want to get for my home. So I'm just going to, you know, and I know what my neighbor sold his house for. So, you know, and I'm in no hurry at all. I just, I'm going to just see if I can do this myself. And I've just heard of people doing it by themselves and saving so much money.
Well, if people basically, everyone in your neighborhood decided to go and buy a Flowbee and a pair of scissors and start styling and cutting their own hair, Would it be obvious if they're cutting
Well,
their own?
lets you, yeah, Zillow lets you do it yourself. I've run into a lot of people doing that, and I just wondered what your responses were.
Well, I'm going down that road here in a second. And so what
Oh, okay.
I mean, so there's no question you could put it on there and you know what? Yeah, you're in no hurry and you can sell it. My question is it possible that somebody in your position, when it comes to the initial price point, may price it? Now you're attempting to save 2.5 or 3%, right? You already said you'd pay me 2.5 or maybe even 3%. So if I brought you a buyer, so is it possible a seller in your position could misprice it by a percent or so? 1%.
Definitely, yeah, it is possible.
Okay, so let's just say conservatively it's 1%. And then now let's say maybe you get lucky and you have multiple offers and some are low, some are high, and there's a lot of confusion in them because they have different terms, cash financing, blah, blah, blah. Who's going to help sort you through that? Who's going to help sort that for you?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to hire an attorney, right?
Okay. Well, you're going to need someone to do it, right? I mean, just because you have scissors, you can hire someone to come over to your house and cut your hair. Yes, and that's going to cost you some money. But I mean, in that type of scenario, is it possible that that you might accept a contract that would be a percent or so below what a professional would do because they have the negotiating strength?
Right. I hadn't thought of it in those terms actually, but I guess that's possible.
And as you know, and again, I could use the meat thermometer, and I'm not going to because I'm just going to speed this up because we're right at the top of the hour, a little past. So when the appraisal comes in low and the buyer attempts to renegotiate, is it possible a seller in your position won't really know what to do? You might negotiate it down 0.5 point or percent more than you need to.
Right. Okay. It's sounding a little bit more than I feel like I can handle. You can have my listing.
You're just reducing it down to the ridiculous. And you guys know this to be true. This market is more challenging than a normal market because you get multiple offers, a lot of different moving parts, and basically buyers are coming in, putting puts on a house only to hold it long enough until they find out if they like it and want to find something better. And a contract that falls through, does that cost seller time, money, and aggravation? Yes. Believe me, in this market, they need us more than ever. And that's why my mantra is this, and I want you to kind of get it. We're free to a seller. So if you can walk through that, you're gonna tear that savings down to nothing because it seemed like a professional painter. Yeah, we can buy the paint and slop it on, and yet when we go buy the wrong paint, we have to, somebody else professionally has to come and clean it up when we're done. Unless we know what we're doing, plus factor in our time, it's cheaper to hire someone. So a couple minutes over. You can either type in the chat, ahas, or let's just unmic yourself. We got the cameras on. What ahas did you get? Thanks so much, you guys, for participating. Jeff, great co-host. John, glad you're on the call. Give me 2 or 3 ahas that make me feel good and make my heart go pitter-patter.
Well, Denny, one thing I've learned from you is you can't reduce the price of a listing that you don't have. So take the darn listing.
Yeah, awesome. What else?
I think
Would
Denny.
you rather?
Go ahead.
Would you rather buy when the market is falling, and every day you will be losing value?
Nice, thanks, Joe. What else? Moses.
Yes, Denny, the urgency part really touched me because, a lot of buyers are hesitant, being the market is so high and they're not factoring in like loan rates and whatnot.
Okay, awesome. One more. Thanks, Moses. Good to hear from you. Rick, I see yours. Yes, thank you. Go back to motivation. Ride that equity elevator up. You bet. One more.
Denny, I like your I set expectations, not price.
Yeah. We can role play more of that. I don't go into exact pricing. Some people just scratch their head and wonder how I do that. We'll talk about that next week. Well, if you can make the class at 4 o'clock today, you have that. It's in the chat. Thank you for putting that in there, Sunny or Jeff. And thanks for being on the call. We'll see you next Tuesday. In the words of Hill Street Blues, be careful out there, guys. Love you, mean it.